Good morning, everyone. I'm Lydia, and on behalf of Tie-Ins and the Tourism Human Resource Council, I would like to thank you for joining us for today's webinar, Successful Sales Strategies for the Tourism Frontline Professional with Greg Thompson. Before I let Greg take over, I do have a couple things to make note of. Our webinars are recorded and will be provided to you in a private link over the next few days, and the electronic slides that Greg will be referencing the handouts have been sent via email to you. In addition to the webinars, such as this one, Tie-Ins also offers a suite of service excellence workshops and online programming for industry. We can assist with skills and service training for you and your team, and also have a mentoring program to help you be more competitive online. If you're interested, you can contact the Tie-Ins office for more information. Many of our initiatives are made possible through partnerships with Tourism Nova Scotia, so thank you for TNS for all of their support. Today's webinar will be approximately 1 hour in length, and there'll be a question and answer opportunity with Greg at the end of the session. With that being said, I would like to introduce to you our facilitator, Greg Thompson, who is a tourism business manager, a business professional, and is a frontline service industry expert specializing in sales. He is a huge tennis fan, and when not taking in the Grand Slam event, you can find him playing some ultimate frisbee. Please welcome Greg Thompson.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for giving me an hour of your time to learn about salesmanship or successful sales strategies. For those of you who attended the revenue management seminar recently, you'll notice that a few of these things are review, but that's always helpful. They'll hit home for you if you hear them a couple of times. So without any further ado, let's dive right in. Sorry, we just need to share the screen. Here we go. So as mentioned, this is Successful Sales Strategy. So this is 45 minutes plus Q&A that will go through and give you a process to sell your business more effectively. This is our outline for the next hour. So we'll look at sales and sales elements. So what is it? What are they? How does it impact your product, your offering, and whether people choose to buy or not? We'll look at persuasion. So how can we influence or persuade people to purchase something? How can we give them a friendly nudge? Strategic pricing. So if we present a price to a potential customer, how do they perceive that price? And how does the perception of the price impact whether they choose to purchase or not? We also have a framework. So this is a 6-step framework, which is multi-sectoral, which will allow yourself or people within your team, your business, your organization to sell more effectively. So let's go into sales. So to give you some context here, and I apologize that when I did this, I was a little geeky, but I went to Google and typed in what is sales and hit enter. I was privileged to have at least 300 pages of searches come through, and I'm going to summarize about 5 or 6 articles that I saw that will give you an indication of, give yourself a primer of what is sales. So let's go through and look at these points one by one. So the first thing, selling is about the buyer and filling his or her need. So the consumer, they're there for a reason. They want to experience something. They want to purchase something. They require something. They're hungry. They need a meal. They're traveling. They need a place to sleep. They have a free afternoon. They need an activity. So it's all about finding something that's of interest to them that they perceive there's value so that they'll go ahead and purchase. The next one is the buyer has choices. So if I'm a traveler and I want to give you my afternoon in your community, you know, what are the various things that I can do? What are my interests? Do I want to be inside? Do I want to be outside? Do I want to see something? Do I want to taste something? So appreciate that your business might not be the only game in town and there's competition. So if a consumer or a guest or a traveler chooses to purchase from you, that's a privilege, and we need to recognize that they can go somewhere else. The next one, there's more to a sale than price. So to give you some framework of this, The Hotel Association of Canada every year has a traveler's intentions survey. They've done so for about the last 10 to 15 years. I've been able to obtain a copy of this every year, and the information, 2 of the 3 reasons why people purchase in hospitality have remained the same. One has changed, but this is quite interesting. So the number 1 reason why people make a hospitality purchase is based on location. So they choose a business that's handy or near where they feel they need to be. So if I'm going to Bedeque, what are the things that I can do in Bedeque? If I'm going to Bridgewater, what are the things I can do there? If I'm going to Arichat, if I'm in downtown Halifax, what are the things that are there? In the context of location as well, it was quite interesting. So the terms of reference of location was within 20 minutes of where they were. So something that's a good location for them is within 20 minutes. This survey doesn't say whether it's walking, running, crawling, driving, flying. It's just 20 minutes. So also appreciate too, so if you think about your competition, if you think about your area, are you within 20 minutes of where people want to be? Or are you enough of a destination that they'll drive a little further? So that's number 1. Number 2 is service. So do they feel they're being taken care of? So, there's quite a difference between hospitality and service. So hospitality is people being friendly. However, services, are you meeting their needs? So, this is very interesting if anybody does retail shopping. So, as it was mentioned in the introduction, I teach at both St. Mary's and Mount St. Vincent, both in Halifax. And we were talking about service in a class discussion, and none of the students could think of a business that actually took good care of them when they went to buy in a retail store. So so if your business is able to take care of people, sell peace of mind, make them feel warm and fuzzy about going, if they have special needs. So maybe they're there with their mother-in-law. So maybe being with your mother-in-law is a pleasure. Maybe being with your mother-in-law is a nuisance. So they're willing to pay money that they can enjoy their afternoon because the mother-in-law is happy. Or the children, or do they have a dog? So that's the second thing, is service. And once again, service is very subjective. So service to you and service to me can be very different things. If you're an introvert, it could be that everything's as intended. If you're an extrovert, do you want interaction with people? Do you want them to remember your name? Next one. Oh, sorry, I actually forgot the last one. The third one there in that survey, I guess I'm so excited about service I just rolled on, is Wi-Fi. So travelers make decisions based on the availability of Wi-Fi. So does your business have Wi-Fi, or is it near to a place that does? So you appreciate, and I guess, this sounds very poorly on my behalf, but I do travel on occasion. And if I take a picture, so I actually did this session in person a week and a half ago, and I took a picture of the venue, and I took a picture of the meeting room with the sign saying, successful sales skills, and I threw it on my Instagram story, and I wanted to know that I had 50 people look at it within the first hour. So that's the same as travelers. People are more connected than ever. People have a smartphone in their pocket or their hand. So if they want to tell people how amazing your place is, they want Wi-Fi to do so they don't have to pay for data. The next one here is pride in your company. So people can tell, a consumer can tell when people are genuine. So are the people there, do they really want to be there? Think of yourself. So if you go to a restaurant, you're there with your family and your children, do the servers care about your kids? Do they really want to accommodate you? Or do they just want to drop the food off at your table and run away? So how can we demonstrate pride? How can we demonstrate that, we want to be here? We're here because it's great. So also consider that the labor market in Nova Scotia is tight, and it's challenging. So let me rephrase. If you're a very good, conscientious, skilled employee in hospitality, you have options of where you can work. So you need to almost portray to the customer that, I chose to be at this business because it's amazing, and when you get here, you'll see why. And the last one is that you need to possess superior product knowledge. So you need to appreciate that people do research on the internet before they make their decisions, whether it's travel or other. So there's literature out there that's saying that people look at 3, 4, or 5 sites at least before they make their travel choice. So if they're interacting with you, and you could be your team, yourself, even your website, like what information do you have because you're there? Like what's the insider scoop? So what do you know about Citadel? You know, if I tour historic Citadel Hill in downtown Halifax, so if I go into the fortress, etc., like what are the tips? What's the must-see? What's the stuff that I could skip? If it's busy, is there a route that I can get through there that I can see it in a better way? Or can I go at a particular time? Or is it better, you know, is it better on a cloudy day because the look-off is better, or the gun at noon is louder, or whatever the case may be? So what knowledge do you or your team have because they live and breathe there? So they're there, so what do they know? So that's the primer of sales. So that's the summary of a lot of articles from Google. So the essence of that really is people will purchase if you meet their need, and everyone's need is slightly different. So if I'm coming, I could be coming because it's on my bucket list to drive the Catawba Trail. I could be coming because my mother-in-law is paying for a family reunion and I'm just being dragged along. I could be coming because, you know, I'm interested in hiking, or I'm interested in seeing Peggy's Cove, or I'm interested in tasting lobster. So if you meet that need, people will buy. And also appreciate there's more to a sale than price. We don't have to be the cheapest game in town. We're not the cheapest game in town, but that's okay. As long as you let people know you have a great location, you have Wi-Fi for them, and you will take care of them with service. So the next topic to consider is persuasion. And this persuasion topic or section, ironically, was one of the many, many pages when I typed in what is sales into Google. So this showed up and I read it, and it was almost like a light bulb moment for me. So think about persuasion, because persuasion and sales can go hand in hand. Because persuasion, you know, is the idea that you're going to influence or steer people in the right direction. So I'd like to present to you an article that talks about the 6 basic principles that govern how a person may influence another. So let's go through these one by one. So the first one is liking. So think about that. So if you can build rapport with that customer, with that person, they're more apt to follow along because they like you. They have a rapport with you. A great example, which may be a little bit silly, but I live by myself in downtown Halifax, and I am the worst sick person in the world. So when I don't feel well, it's very problematic. So if I don't feel well, all that I want is a cherry popsicle and a grilled cheese sandwich. So I crawl on my deathbed to my phone, or grab my smartphone, or my iPhone, and I call my mother and say, I'm on my deathbed, I feel awful. Will you go to the grocery store and get me ingredients for a grilled cheese sandwich and 2 cherry popsicles and come here and make it? And guess what? My mother, I guess she likes me. I'm the youngest, so maybe you like the youngest the most, but she always will drop what she's doing, go to the grocery store, because I don't eat grilled cheeses otherwise, so I don't have the ingredients in my fridge. So she goes to the grocery store, she buys the popsicles, she comes over and she makes it. So why does she do that? Because I'm her baby and she likes me. The next one is bargaining. So if the potential customer or person perceives, and notice I use the word perceive, they are getting a good deal or good value, they can be persuaded to do so. So let's take a different example for a different context. So let's say that I'm selling my car. So first of all, I don't own a car, but let's pretend that I did. So let's say that I drive, and I'm just going to pull out of thin air. I drive a Volkswagen Jetta, and let's say that that Jetta is 5 years old. So it's a 2013 Jetta, there's 50,000 kilometers on it, and for me to get rid of it, I need to get $15,000 to keep the Royal Bank away from me. So I have to sell that car for 15. I go to the internet, I do some research, and I see the prices online are more than 15. So if I'm going to place an ad for that car on Kijiji or equivalent, like what price am I going to do? So I need to get 15 to clear the bank. So I'm going to list that price for 18, and I'm going to let the shrewd negotiator beat me down, and they're going to buy the car like, hey, he just sold me the car for $16,000. I saved $2,000. He doesn't realize that I pay off the Royal Bank, and now I have $1,000 I'm going to Cuba on his dime. But the thing is, so that person buys because they think they're getting a good deal. How many people do you know of? And of course, we're all perfect, so it wouldn't be us, but it would be our friends. So how many of your friends go shopping on Boxing Day or Black Friday and buy a whole bunch of stuff, and then when the stuff arrives, they don't wear it or they don't use it, but they bought it because it was such a good deal? So you can be persuaded because you perceive it's a good deal. So the next one is consistency. So if that traveler has stayed before, if that visitor has stayed before, if you can reassure them they will have the same experience again, they'll keep on coming. So even think of all those franchise businesses that are out there. So I'm sure some of you will say that this isn't the case, but if I go to Tim Hortons and I get a large double-double and a sour cream glazed donut, whether I'm at this one or the other one all over the country, that should taste the same. So if I'm driving and I want a coffee or I'm falling asleep, what have you, I know that if I get a large double-double, it's going to taste the same. So there's no risk involved with that. So if I had a great experience before and you can reassure me I'll have a great experience again, I'm going to do it. So the next one is scarcity. So if you can make me think that whatever it is that I'm buying is in short supply, I'm more apt to buy. So, as another example, think of all the people at Christmas time who are scouring Walmart and all the toy stores to find the toy of the year. So your child might not want the toy of the year, or if you buy them the toy of the year, I guarantee you by February 1st, they don't even play with it anymore. But you're walking around or, scouring store to store to store all fall looking for the toy of the year. So you buy it, you overpay for it because, you want to say, or, maybe you're like me and you want to go to Instagram on your story and say, got the toy of the year, aren't I the father of the year? So maybe that's more for me than for them, but if things are in short supply, so if you can create pressure of some kind, so if somebody calls you and says, hey, I'm thinking of coming this weekend, what's going on, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, it's a great weekend, you should definitely come. By the way, it's busy because there's a special event, you should book now, I don't want you to miss out. By the way, you should stay an extra day and you should go see this or that. Or, you want to come on Saturday, there's fireworks on Sunday night, stay an extra day, do these three things, which I've done personally, tell them the insider information about why they're so great, and then they'll do it. So the next one is social validation. So that's sort of like the little academia of this theory. However, social validation simply means popular. People will buy stuff that's popular. So I may be aging myself a little bit, but when the TV show Friends first came out, a lot of the females that I knew got their hair cut like Rachel. So Rachel was the hot thing, that was the hot show, people had the Rachel cut. I have another great example, which I may also be aging myself a little tiny bit, but myself and one of my friends took one of our neighbors, they had kids who were young, and we took them to the Backstreet Boys concert on Citadel Hill in Halifax. So this is a while ago, I don't remember when, it's probably 15, 20 years ago. I guess it's whenever the Backstreet Boys were relevant last. So we took them to the Backstreet Boys concert. So just picture myself, my friend, and 6 13-year-olds. So I think there's 2 boys and 4 girls. We're all there to rock with the Backstreet Boys. So we get there, and if you don't know that band very well, there's 5 guys in that band. They, they dance, they sing, they do their little routine, and that's it. And then all the young people freak out and they love it. So we got there, and when we arrived, there's only 4 of them, not 5. So they made an announcement, and one of the gentlemen in the show the previous night, he had actually strained a muscle in his leg and he was on crutches. So he couldn't do all the dance moves, which of course I'm not capable of doing, but he couldn't do all those dance moves. So there was only 4. So they made the announcement, that's fine, people are upset. They rejig the songs, they're doing their thing. Then in the middle of the concert, they slowed it down to do all the slow songs. So this guy came out in crutches and he crutched out onto the stage. He sat on the stool. The other 4 guys were around him in a circle, and they sang 3 slow songs. So everybody was happy. They were screaming. They're yelling his name, etc. So when he came out, the 4 gentlemen who did the whole show, they were wearing like Hollywood clothes, which is like, shiny clothes, buttons, fancy. This guy came out with a pair of jeans on and a red hoodie, and on the front of that hoodie, it had the word GAP. So that was the concert. There's like 50,000 people there. He came out in a Gap red hoodie and sang his 3 songs, and he crutched away and left. My oldest sister, her best friend at the time, was the regional manager for Gap for Atlantic Canada. So just for conversation, so the day before the concert, nobody cared about the Gap hoodies. The day of the concert, they had sold out every single red one within an hour of the store opening. They sold like $6,000 worth of hoodies at Micmac Mall like right away. They called all the stores east of Montreal and they shipped all of Ottawa, Montreal, Quebec City. They shipped all the red hoodies down to Halifax. They sold them all. So why is it that, you know, you see this, you know, this music guy who I don't even know his name, but he came out in jeans and a red Gap hoodie, and then all of a sudden everybody in Halifax who was probably 13 years of age or less wanted a red Gap hoodie. So Gap is probably, because they're a large organization, maybe they didn't take advantage of that, but maybe there was an opportunity to charge more money for that hoodie. So it's popular, so people want it. And the last one is authority. So if people perceive that somebody is an expert and they know what they're talking about, they're more apt to buy. So think if I'm going to your facility and I go on TripAdvisor and I start reading reviews. Think if you're going to a movie or you're going to a restaurant, like do you ask your friends for a recommendation? Do you read the reviews online? Do you go to Yelp and see how many stars something is? So if the purchaser perceives you know what you're talking about, they're more apt to buy. The reality of this, or the hope or the intention would be, so authority is fine, but if your team is astute, if they're confident, if they have superior product knowledge, they can present themselves in such a way that your team is the authority. So I can sit there and say, listen, like I worked at, Picture Perfect Tours, and I've been here for 15 years, and I've been on every single tour that we have, and because you're interested in history, and because you're interested in the Titanic, this is the tour you should take. So if I'm confident, if I deliver that with pride and passion, I'm the expert, which means that they don't need to go to TripAdvisor and read a review, they'll take my word for it. So this persuasion is interesting because it may seem like common sense, but just think, if somebody likes you, they'll buy something. If they perceive they're getting a good deal, they'll buy it. If it's the same as last time, they'll buy it. If there's very few left, they'll buy it. If it's popular, they'll buy it. Or if you recommend, they'll buy it. So think of how many, maybe this is a stupid example, but if your doctor tells you not to eat fried food, like, do you? Or if your dentist tells you to floss, like, do you? We probably do for a week. So, I try to floss. I mean to floss. I think my dentist knows what he's talking about. But, so do you listen to your dentist? So why can't you listen to me? So am I an authority on sales? So you all paid a little bit of money and have invested an hour of your time to hear this. So, am I presenting myself as authority so you think that what I'm saying is correct? So that's persuasion. So the next thing to think about is pricing. And I just want to sort of go through this to think about when a consumer purchases something, they look at what the offer is, they look at the cost is, and they make a decision whether to buy or not. So I think it's important that we at least review this on a cursory level. For those of you who were in the revenue management session recently, this is a bit of a review. However, I think it's still quite relevant. So let's think for a moment how prices are set. So let's say, we're a retail store, something costs us $50, we charge a markup, we sell it for $100. So I think the example I used yesterday was shoes. So we have a shoe store, we buy our shoes for $50, we open up on Spring Garden Road in downtown Halifax, we're the only shoe store there, we sell them for $100, so every pair of shoes we make $50. So that's great. We're doing well, we're doing great, we've got all kinds of Instagram stories, people are liking us, life is good. And then all of a sudden, somebody is resentful of our success and they open a shoe store across the street or next door and they have the same stuff. So they're selling the same shoes and all of a sudden they're like, yeah, well, we can undercut them. Let's sell the shoes for $90. So then it's like, okay, so we're going to sell our shoes for $90? Are we going to sell them for $80? Are we going to start a price war? Are we instead going to offer a value add? So can we give, drop in once a week and we have a free shoe shine? Or, think about the car dealerships. A lot of car dealerships recently, they were giving away free oil changes when you bought your car. So is there something that we can do to make the consumer choose us over them? So based on what we know about sales, location's the same, but maybe we could sell service. So we have fitting experts. We do a good job with that. Or, there's just some other thing. Or maybe we have Wi-Fi and they don't. So that if your husband is watching you buy shoes and he's bored, he can watch ESPN.com or YouTube or MLB.com on his phone while he's waiting. So, but the first thing is, we make a markup, which is traditional. We adjust the price based on the competition. And then the last one is perceived value. So we charge them based on what people think something is worth. So just think about how people's experiences change stuff. So if I'm traveling to Nova Scotia and I live in Paris or London in Europe, and I'm used to the fact that a meal in London is like £100 a person, and a hotel in London is £500 a night. So I have a different frame of reference. So I might arrive here, go into a restaurant and see something's like $20. And based on that, I might think, is there something wrong with it? It's too cheap. Like, are the ingredients bad? Are they stale? Or, I look at, I'm looking at this hotel, it's like $129 a night, and I'm used to paying $500. It's like, what's wrong with it? So the same idea with the perceived value is, think of that shoe store. So let's say that somebody needs shoes. Let's say your daughter needs shoes for graduation, and you've been looking everywhere and you can't find something. You walk in the store and there they are. And then the minute you purchase them, the hellish day of shopping or week of shopping is over. Like, how much will you pay? You'll certainly pay more than 100 or 90. So that's perceived value. So you'll pay what you think it's worth. An example that I used yesterday, so I actually have Morgan here with me. She's assisting and helping with the technology. We were talking about this yesterday for a moment, and my guilty pleasure is cashews. So if I buy cashews, if I have some at home, I know the cheapest place to buy cashews is Costco, where you can get an absolutely massive jug of them for $30. And I also know that the Superstore has them on sale for $9.99, which makes them about the same price. But if I'm at work and I don't feel well and I have no food, our office is across the street from a Shoppers Drug Mart, and in Shoppers Drug Mart they're $15.99. But if I don't feel well, which means I just need something to take my headache away, I'll drop $15.99 in 2 seconds flat. So it's just because I think I need them. How many people have been to a movie and you didn't have a chance to eat and you're hungry and you're coming straight from work and you're meeting friends, so you buy $20 worth of popcorn because you didn't eat anything? And popcorn's not worth $20, but you buy it anyways. So, those are just things to consider. So when people truly need something, what are they willing to pay? Here's another great example that we were sort of talking about earlier, is that I like sports, and one of my bucket list items for sports is I want to go to the Super Bowl. So I'm assuming people know what the Super Bowl is, but just in case you don't, it's the championship of American football. It's the #1 televised sporting event in the world. So if you want to go to a Super Bowl, if you're lucky enough, usually they're in a stadium that's 50 or 60,000 seats. In order to get a ticket, so I actually went through the proper channels to see what they cost. Because there's so much demand, meaning so many people want them, a ticket for the Super Bowl at face value is $10,000 US. So the thing is, so I don't have $10,000 US. I wish I did. It'd be a totally different conversation if I did, but I don't. But the thing is, so I'm a sports fan and I like football, but I want to go to the Super Bowl before I die. So even though I know $10,000 is ridiculous, and I know that's no transportation, that's no food, that's no place to stay, I want to go to the Super Bowl before I die. So somewhere, how, shape, or what, I'll probably start saving, and once I get $10,000, I'll start figuring out if I'm going to go or not. But that's an example. So I think it's too much money, but I want to go. So it's expensive, but you want to go. Also appreciate, so some of my hospitality background is I actually worked at the Prince George Hotel in Halifax when I first started. I actually started cleaning when I was a teenager, and I worked my way through. One of the things that I thought was interesting is a lot of people who are line employees at the Prince George, their incomes are moderate. However, there was a lady who was an hourly paid employee. She worked there for years. Her passion is to go to London or Paris every single summer for 2 weeks, go see some concerts, see some culture, walk around, and that's her thing. So she brings her lunch from home every single day for 50 weeks of the year, and what she saves on lunch pays for that trip. So just remember and perceive value too. So I'm sure they tell you in retail, like, don't judge a book by its cover. The people who you think who have no money are the people who have tons of money. Or they decided that coming to Nova Scotia is important, or going to your business is important, so they're going to spend a little bit more. But perceived value is the right way to go. The reality of life, though, unfortunately, is that most businesses are cost or competitive. Because perceived is tricky, because I might perceive the value of your business differently than other people. And if you have to publish a price on the internet, like, you have to put something out there. So it makes it difficult. However, theoretically, it's the right way to go. So the next thing to consider too, when the consumer thinks of prices in their mind, is what did they pay before? So if they've been on a similar vacation, whether it's in Nova Scotia or if it's another part of the world, like, what did they pay before? So, if they're used to paying $1,000 for a week, what can they get for $1,000 a week? They also understand that if there's a special event or it's super busy, that things cost more. So, think of the Super Bowl, or think of buying, think of taking your kids to March break, to Disney World at March break versus going in September when it's hurricane season. Also consider the cost of similar items. So once again, the buyer has choices. So maybe you're the only type of business that, like you are, you're unique in Nova Scotia, but what if they go to New Brunswick, or what if they go to Maine, or what if they go to Massachusetts, or what if they go to Quebec? So what's the cost of that experience in those places? And they'll compare apples to apples. And the last one is inflation. So people understand that prices increase. So they might not want them to increase, but if you go to the grocery store, bread costs more this week than it did this time last year. So those are things that people consider when they look at prices. And then the last part of this pricing stuff is the price-value relationship. So this is actually quite important in my opinion, because whenever somebody purchases something, they're going to grid it in this chart here. So if you actually look at this quickly, we're gridding quality versus price. So if you buy something, automatically in your mind, you're going to sit there and say, how much does it cost? Is it worth it? So let's go through these quadrants. So the bottom quadrant is low quality and low price. So something is average, but the cost is cheap. So is that good or bad? So if I go to the dollar store, I buy some toys for my little nephew, I'm babysitting for the afternoon, it costs me $4, it keeps them busy for 6 hours, and then they all go in the garbage. So is that okay? So it costs me $4 to entertain them for the afternoon? That's very okay. So let's go in the opposite quadrant, which is high quality, high price. So something is really good, but it's expensive. Is that okay? So, think of that Super Bowl for a minute. So I think it cost me $15,000 to go to the Super Bowl. Probably cost me more because I don't want to go by myself. So I need to use those 6 persuasion techniques to get somebody to come with me. But so is it worth it? So is a once in a lifetime experience worth a high price? Think of people who are fortunate enough to buy like Mercedes-Benz or luxury cars, or think of people who buy like Patagonia or North Face winter coats. Like, they're expensive, but they're going to last a really long time. So the next one, which is also in the brighter blue, is high quality and low price. So think if I could find the Super Bowl, but I could find the ticket for $2,500. So the Super Bowl's on sale. Think about, a winter coat's on sale, or think about that I buy a second-hand BMW from somebody that barely drove it. So I'm really, really happy. So all of those 3 quadrants, if you look at them, those are great, because I will buy, consumers will buy if it's low quality, low price, high quality, low price, or high quality, high price. I'm not sure if you noticed, but I actually skipped one. So I skipped the one that's low quality, high price. So whenever something's in low quality, high price, the consumer won't buy. So reflect on your business for a moment. So what do you have, or what do you know of that doesn't sell well, or you perceive, or customers tell you that costs too much, it's not worth it? So if people think that way, the only way they're going to sell it is you need to drop the price to move it to this quadrant, or you need to increase the quality. So you need to reassure people, hey, listen, like, this is worth it because, these are the benefits of this. So yes, the Super Bowl costs $10,000, but it's worth it because it's a once in a lifetime experience. You can brag to your friends. The seats are very, very close. You get a tailgate party with a celebrity, whatever the case may be. But the thing is, so even think of yourself for a moment. So some of the examples I've used recently is like you go to the grocery store, you're in the produce department, and you pick up strawberries. So you want some strawberries, so you pick up some strawberries. And today, which is what, the 29th of March, the strawberries are coming from California or somewhere similar, and they're like $6.99 for a container, and they don't taste that great. And then, think about that you go, you get them in a farmer's market, and they're abundant, so they're really, really cheap. So, think about how that can impact, what people perceive to be expensive or not. So, the movie theater and popcorn, they still buy it. They buy it because they're hungry. They're not because maybe they want it, or they buy it because the smell of it. That's the senses again. But for your business, as a moment of reflection, anything that falls in that quadrant, you need to either lower the price or raise the quality. Or you need to, to raise the quality, you need to better explain why it's great. So the other thing to consider too is, Nova Scotia Approved can impact your business's quality because this is a program that consumers know, and they know that if they see Nova Scotia Approved, that it meets minimum standards, so they can be more assured that your business is a quality business. So let's move into the framework. So this is the way we're going to sell. This is the way we're going to present the product to the customer. So let's go through this one by one. So the first one is connect. The second one is needs. The next one, wants. The next one is engage. The next one is what if, in case if there's hesitation. And the last one is wrap up. So let's dive into these a little more thoroughly. So let's look at connect. So if you're interacting with a customer, whether it's on your website, it's in person, it's on the telephone, you will have an interaction. So the interaction starts with, is there a warm greeting? So are you showing sincerity? Are you showing, pride in your business? Do people want to be there? Are you able to use their name? So, what's the best way to get their name? So either they're going to tell you. So in many instances, people will go into a business that, hey, I'm on my vacation. I'm here with my wife and my 2 kids. My name's Greg Thompson. Can you help me? So if they give you their name, then use it. If they don't, just ask them. You can say, I'm Greg. May I ask your name? And they'll give you their name. The next thing is capture any volunteered information they give you. So if they start to tell you all kinds of stuff, so if somebody calls you and says, hey, I want to come on Canada Day weekend, and I've been here before, and I'm looking for this, that, or the other thing. So capture that information so you can already start to figure out what they need. Also appreciate from persuasion and the liking principle, you're in fact building rapport with them, which allows them to like you. So if you make a connection, they tell that you're interested, they tell that you capture the information that they've given so they don't have to repeat themselves 2 or 3 times, they're more apt to buy. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to determine their needs. So remember, selling is all about the buyer and filling his or her needs. So let's look at some of the things. So has this person been with you before? Have they new to the region, never, new or return? Have they been to Nova Scotia before? Have they been to your attraction before, etc.? How many people are in their party? So, can you physically accommodate? So if you're a golf course and I have 8 people, can you accommodate 8 people? Do you have 2 foursomes? Do you have some that are close together, etc.? Also, recognize that that person has probably done online research. So they probably know stuff already. In the connect section, when they volunteer information, they might say to you, listen, I was on TripAdvisor, I was on Expedia, I was on NovaScotia.com, I was on your website, this is what I read, please confirm to me I'm making a good choice. So acknowledge that they've done online research, and you can also figure out, this will give you a great opportunity if they have special requests to accommodate them, and also to think about the insider information you have because you're there that can better meet their needs. So the next section is wants. So wants are things such as the reason for the visit. So why are they there? So is it a bucket list trip? Is it, is it a special occasion? Are they with their family, their wife, their honeymoon? Is it a bachelor party? Are they by themselves? Are they here on work and they just want to stay a couple extra days? So based on that reason, it could impact. The next thing is interest. So what are the types of things that they're interested in doing? So I like sports. So I'm interested in anything to do with sports, or maybe somebody's a foodie and they want to drink wine and taste food. So what are the things that they're interested in that will help you steer? The next thing is, are there specific things they want to do, see, or experience? So do they know about dining on the ocean floor? Do they know about hiking on the Cabot Trail? Do they know that they need to see the noonday gun at Citadel Hill? Do they know that they want to, walk along, the waterfront in downtown Halifax? The next thing is, do they have plans already? So what are they already doing, and how can we supplement, complement, or improve these existing plans? And the next thing is, do they have any flexibility? So maybe you're not available on, maybe they want to come on Canada Day, but if you find out that they're staying in Nova Scotia for a week, can we sort of shift their itinerary around a little bit so that maybe you can't accommodate them on Canada Day or July 1, but you can on the 2nd or the 3rd. So can we alter things, allow them to have a great vacation? When we're altering things too, we're exemplifying service, that we want to take care of them, but that could help your business fill gaps and needs, because in a lot of instances, the minute the calendar turns, like, you're not getting yesterday's tour back, or you're not getting yesterday's room back, or yesterday's meal back. So if you can't accommodate them now, is there a way that we can, make it work? So that's one. So after we figure out who they are, what they want, what are the requirements, we want to engage, which means we want to actually make the offer. So what is it that we want to try to present to them and try to sell? So we want to tell them, what it is, and we want to think about features and benefits. So don't tell me, for example, if you're selling a hotel, that you have a TV, a bed, carpet, and a door. Tell me why those things are important to me. So if you know my needs, so if I'm telling you I'm coming to Nova Scotia for the first time and it's my honeymoon, tell me the stuff so tell me about a quiet room, tell me about a pretty view, tell me about your Nova 7 that can be chilled in the room when I arrive. Tell me about the fact that, it's a suite and there's a hot tub, or there's rose petals, or, tell me something that's a benefit to me because you know why I'm coming. Also, make a recommendation. You're the expert. Recommend something. So tell me, for a honeymoon, this is what I recommend. Or you can say, use some of the persuasion technique. Our most popular honeymoon option is X. I've personally experienced all these things, so you're a persuasion expert. This is what I recommend and why. And then the last part is insider information. Remember, what's the stuff that you know or your team knows because they live there? So when I say live, I don't mean that you live in Nova Scotia, but when I'm at work, so I'm at work probably more waking hours than I'm at home. So what do I know because you are where you are? So what's the best? What's the trick? What's the insider trick because you're there of the super cool stuff? So tell them the stuff that's not on the website. Tell them the stuff that Expedia doesn't know. Tell them the stuff that if they call a 1-800 number that they may or may not know the information. Say, listen, I'm here, I'm right now, I'm looking out and I can see the Bay of Fundy right now. And let me tell you, if you want to see the Bay of Fundy that's best, come at sunrise or whatever the case may be. Come at low tide, and I can tell you when low tide will be based on your travel dates. So after you engage them, you make the offer, you do all that stuff. The what if is, so what if they hesitate? So look for clues or hesitation. So appreciate for a moment, if we go back to the price value relationship, so if they grid that purchase as low quality, high price, they're going to hesitate somehow. So look for the clues. So sometimes people say, listen, I'm just shopping around, or I need to speak to my wife, I'm not sure. That may or may not be the case. So it could also be that's their sign that there's something wrong. So we need to overcome objection. We need to ask them, it's like, can I explain something more thoroughly? Or, you seem a little hesitant. Is there something, is there something that I can explain more thoroughly? Or, you seem hesitant, may I ask why? Maybe can I overcome price resistance? So if people are interested and they're like, listen, like that's more than I want to spend. And then you can say, well, what is your budget? And then you can figure out, so maybe if you're selling a tour to Peggy's Cove, that, or maybe it's even if it's Celtic Colors, maybe that certain locations aren't as busy as others, so I can steer them there or say, come on the Sunday night. The Sunday night is the cheapest time to be here. Come on the Sunday night or a Monday, and I can work within your budget. You can have a great experience, and you can still, not bankrupt yourself in the process. Also be ready to make competitive comparisons. So if people have hesitation, maybe it's because they've looked at picture perfect tours and they've looked at your offering, but it's like maybe you cost $10 more per person than something else. So be equipped and ready to say, listen, they're a great company too, but this is what's different about us. So we're offering a tour guide that's done this tour for 25 years, who's accredited this way, that way, the other thing, who's reviewed on TripAdvisor, or our buses are more comfortable, or just something to say that we're great, but don't ever say a negative thing about your competition. We just say, look, these are the reasons why I feel we're a better fit. These are the reasons, because I'm an expert, why I think you should follow along. So if we overcome those objectives effectively, the last thing we'll do is wrap up, or as you can see by the picture, we'll hit the finish line with the consumer. And that means that we'll make the sale. So we'll ask them to book it. We'll ask them, if, would you like to buy this? We'll also, explain any policies, procedures, conditions. So if they're buying something, like what's the return policy? Is there a cancellation policy? Are they getting a cheap price because it's for AAA members or CAA members? So, remind them that they need to bring the card when they arrive, or, if they're here now, to make sure that they show it to you. Also offer further assistance. So maybe you're such an expert that you've really helped them in Digby, but maybe you know a lot about Annapolis Royal or Wolfville or Windsor. So maybe you're an expert in Windsor, and you could send them down the highway a little bit, and then they could see another great part of the province, and you can give them that insider information. So think about, for example, like Morgan and I, we're in the Hydrostone in Halifax. So if you think of restaurants, the majority of people who eat out in Halifax as tourists, they're downtown on the waterfront in the the Spring Garden Road area. But the north end of Halifax has amazing restaurants, but we know that because we're here. So that's a more authentic experience that we can provide further assistance. It's like, hey, listen, these are my favorite places and why. I go to Salvatore's Pizza and this is why. And the last thing, of course, is we need to show gratitude, because we need to be thankful that they gave us their money. So once again, that buyer has choice. So they chose you. Congratulations. So we need to be appreciative and let them know that we're really, really thankful that they've decided to give us their money. So that's the framework. So let's just do a quick little review. So this is the summary. So in order for us to be effective, we need to think about those sales processes, or those sales elements. So remember, it's all about the need. It's about, there's more to a price, there's more to a sale than price. So we need to certainly consider that stuff. We also need to consider, we need superior product knowledge. We have to have pride. The buyer has choices. The next thing is persuasion is very effective. So think about the fact of, can you build rapport to make people want to buy? Can you tell them that something's popular? Can you make yourself out to be an expert with this insider superior product knowledge that they want to buy from you because they feel that you're going to guarantee them or make their Nova Scotia experience that much better? Pricing really, to me, comes down to the price-value relationship. So if you're in the grocery store and you pick up, an avocado, do you sit there and say it's worth $6, or do you put it down because you perceive $6 is too much for the utility that you would get out of an avocado? And then the last part is the framework. So the framework, once again, is, connect. So have that warm greeting. Find out the needs. So how many people, what are their dates? Are their dates flexible? Find out their wants. So what are they interested in? What experiences have they had? What research have they done so far? Engage. So make the offer. But when you make the offer, say, this offer is perfect for you because, so you're giving features and benefits. You're making a recommendation. You're also proving that superior product knowledge. You're also what if. So if they have hesitation, you're able to overcome that hesitation, which is shifting them out of the low quality, high price box on the price value relationship. And then finally wrap it up so you make the sale. So that, my friends, is the program and the content. We'd certainly like to open the floor for questions.
While everyone's thinking of questions, I would like to thank Greg and to thank everyone that has participated here today in today's session. I would like everyone to watch their emails today, as we will be sending the link of the webinars and an evaluation session later this afternoon. And if anyone has any questions, or feel free to ask. Also, don't forget to check out our Facebook page for some regular updates and programming. We have a fantastic session planned on April 11th with Tourism Nova Scotia digital marketing team, all about how to maximize your novascotia.com listings.
So while we're sort of waiting for the questions to percolate, when I always think of sales, honestly, the takeaways from this course for me is the whole essence of persuasion. So persuasion is a very effective technique, and there's lots of ways that you can encourage people to buy. So if you actually think about those, so when I first read it, I thought it was common sense, but it did present it in an interesting way. So why did the Gap sell out of all those hoodies right away? So why is it that I buy something if I perceive I'm getting a good deal, but I don't necessarily know it's a good deal, but maybe I perceive that it is? I also think of some of the sales stuff. So once again, there's more to a sale than price. So don't apologize if you're expensive. You just need to justify why it's worth the price. So what is the quality associated with what you're offering? And also appreciate, so what's the experience? So if I go on your tour, like, yes, you check off the list that I'm going to Lunenburg, Mahone Bay, and Peggy's Cove, but what's unique about your delivery of that? You know, what's the experience that I'm going to get? You know, what does the tour guide offer to that experience? The other thing that I think is a great takeaway, once again, is the price-value relationship. So even think of yourself when you go shopping. So if you're buying a birthday gift or a wedding gift for somebody, and you have a budget of $50, so you're going through the mall or the shopping center, the department store, or online, when you pick something up, it's like, is that worth $50? Will they like it? Like, will that make them happy? So here's a great example. My sister is a fitness person, and she wanted a water bottle, and she told me the best water bottles on the market is a brand called Swell, S-W-E-L-L, and they're in the United States. It's sort of an independent, artsy kind of company, and their thing is their water bottle, if you put cold liquid in it, it will keep it cold for 24 hours, and hot liquid will stay hot for 12. But these water bottles, so her previous water bottle cost, I think she got 2 of them at Costco for $12.99, and these Swell bottles are $60. So that's quite a change, it's quite a jump, but she really, really wanted it. And the way that I looked at it is I was going to spend $100 on my sister, and she wants a water bottle that's $60, which, yes, in fact, it's a lot for a water bottle. But the way that I looked at it is I bought her a water bottle, so I actually saved $40 off my birthday budget. And now that she's had that bottle, her birthday's in January, it's March, so she loves that bottle. She's like, I want to get another one. Can you get me one for Mother's Day? Or, you know, she's trying to think of a holiday. She said, will you get me one for Easter? So she wants another one. And then, of course, the last part of that's just the framework. The framework works for any sales situation. Really, if you understand what the consumer wants, what that potential customer wants and needs, you can make an offer that illustrates to them how it fits that need and how it will be unique and how they'll have a good experience. And then, of course, they'll buy it. If it's a little expensive, you just need to justify why it's a little costly. Then they'll buy. So did any questions come in?
I don't see any.
Well, that's all right.
So
I spoke for 55 minutes. I'm sure they're probably ready not to hear me anymore.
I'd like to thank everyone who did come out today and to watch your emails. And if you do end up having any questions or comments, feel free to email me and I'll get you in touch with Greg. I want everyone to have a happy weekend and happy Easter.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Enjoy your weekend. It's nice to cyber meet you.